Welcome to this episode of Engineering Success Profile Editions. Today we're speaking to Natalie Cheung, who is a STEM Ambassador Coordinator. She's also the founder and host of YellowBeePod podcast and a TED speaker. Hi Natalie, welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. I'm actually a fan of your podcast as a listener myself, so I'm extra delighted to be on today, especially speaking to another podcaster, as I'm quite new to this space.
Thank you very much. It's great to have you here. So can we start right at the beginning? What was your route into the engineering industry?
Okay, well, let's take it all the way back to when I was at school. When I was in sixth form, I studied A-levels in subjects maths, computing, physics, also further maths and Latin, but those were less significant for me gaining my place at university. Yeah. I chose to study civil engineering and at the University of Manchester, and that was actually something which I discovered through a sort of unpaid work experience placement as a teenager. Right. So when I was 16, like a lot of students around that age, I spent a couple of weeks in my summer holidays in a workplace, and I actually spent it at a construction project manager firm. Right. Before that, I had never considered working in construction, or I didn't even know what a civil engineer was. I had never heard of that before in my life. Right. But I knew I liked maths, and I had considered things like computer science because I really liked a lot of robot movies. Right. Okay. Somehow through that, I went through computer science, probably considered every single discipline of engineering before finally landing on civil engineering, which is what I pursued at university. Yeah. And I put that 100% down to the mentors that I had on that work experience placement, who really showed me, what the construction industry is all about and how it affects every single person on the planet. And that was, a big motivator for me. Really opened my eyes to the opportunities that were in civil engineering. And when I started my career, I worked at a global design consultancy where I was part of the railway team in the transportation department. Right. So working not on the trains themselves, but on the infrastructure surrounding the railways. And that's how I started my career, which is, I think, hugely important, especially in London. Everyone gets on the public transport and the train. It's really crucial for every type of person and every part of life. So it was fantastic to get into that. That was my route into engineering.
Yeah. So how did you become involved in the STEM Ambassador program?
Yeah, well, it's actually a bit strange to think back because I never would have expected that it would have such a large impact on my life. Right. It was the case where I joined a student society while studying my undergraduate studies in engineering at the University of Manchester. And this student-led group, it was all about promoting STEM subjects, so science, technology, engineering and maths with young people, specifically female students. Yeah. And this was a student-led group. I joined the Manchester chapter and ended up sort of really enjoying it. So we used Lego robotics as a way to engage local school children with STEM and also give them the opportunity to meet university students from a whole range of STEM subjects. Yeah. Sort of in a place where the school students could see themselves in just a couple of years. Right. And it was really fantastic. I gained a lot from that experience and really threw myself into it as a student to volunteer, to recruit other volunteers from, different student departments and to train them up and encourage people. And I found a lot of energy in it, and that's how I became a STEM ambassador. Right. It's weird to think back because I never would have expected just stumbling into a random student society in a time where everyone's just keen to just try out some different things. Before that, I would have never said that I wanted to work with children. Never, ever, ever. It would never have happened. Yeah. But I actually really ended up enjoying it, and I really have a lot of appreciation for these student groups that can lead people to try out things outside of their comfort zone.
Yeah. So obviously, it's a big change being an engineer to delivering the STEM Ambassadors program. What made you decide to change then?
Oof, it was a tough one. It wasn't an easy decision, definitely not. Right. Well, I continued volunteering as a STEM ambassador after I finished my studies and when I started working as an engineer myself.
Yeah.
In the simplest terms, basically what I realized was that I was taking time off work to volunteer and organize STEM events.
Yeah.
And something there just didn't really make sense. I also took a early career sort of year-long sabbatical, so effectively a period of unpaid leave quite early on in my career where I spent some time traveling and also 6 months volunteering overseas. And working within a small team, volunteering overseas, I found that I could really see the impact that I was having on, a smaller team, a smaller project than I was in my day job. And it's difficult because I still say I'm a civil engineer and I'm still within, so many engineering communities, which I'm hugely grateful for. But at the same time, in my day job now, I don't actually work as an engineer, which is really bizarre and actually a bit sad. But I don't regret the decision because I really enjoy my job. Now I work at STEM Learning, who deliver the STEM Ambassador Volunteer Program. And I'm just one of the members in the team, and I really can see sort of where I bring value to the team because of my background as an engineer, of my experience as a STEM ambassador myself, and being able to bring that perspective is something which I am really proud to be able to do. But it was definitely a big decision, not one that I would have expected. I didn't start my career expecting anything less than being a civil engineer or maybe a construction project manager. But I also recognize that that's one of the opportunities that came up that I perhaps wouldn't have expected. When I was a university student, I didn't even know that there was a job like this, like managing volunteers or delivering STEM outreach projects, but it's something I'm hugely passionate about. So kind of just makes sense. I do miss engineering.
Yeah. So how long do you actually spend in the office and how long do you spend actually delivering the program? Is it a 50-50 balance or what is that?
Let's see. Well, let's talk pre-COVID, pre-2020, because things have changed quite a bit this year. I think a big misconception about my role, so perhaps something to clear up first and foremost, is that I don't actually work with young people directly myself, but it's more about encouraging other people to work with young people and sort of being that middle man. Is middleman the right word? Person between STEM ambassadors, the volunteers themselves, the employers and the membership organizations that they come from. So linking them with places where young people are, and that includes schools, which is probably where people would think firstly where STEM ambassadors would volunteer, but also with non-school groups. So we really encourage STEM ambassadors to volunteer in places like community youth groups, libraries, museums, working with family events for the general public. There's so much there, and we really don't sort of limit what STEM ambassadors do. So first and foremost is that I don't spend my days normally actually delivering directly with young people, but rather meeting with different employers and local authorities and schools, thinking about their needs and how we can, connect them for a mutually beneficial relationship where the STEM ambassadors can volunteer and really contribute to whatever it is that the young people can really benefit from. So in terms of my job pre-COVID, I probably spent 50% of my time in my own office in London and 50% of my time in other people's workplaces, whether that was their office or a lecture hall or a conference. And I had lots of external meetings, which I really enjoy, being able to meet different people and also helping to run and organize events, which is fab. It's very varied. I know that everyone says that about their job, but it really is.
I can imagine yours is, yes. So what are the most important skills for your current role?
Well, my role encompasses quite a few different things, and it's also kind of what you make of it as well. So I think the most important one is being able to build relationships, because that's sort of ultimately the biggest chunk of my role. It's liaising with the employers, it's liaising with the STEM ambassadors, helping to figure out their needs, and then matching that up with a wide network. There are so many schools across London, let alone across the country, plus all the non-school groups. There are so many different people to keep in touch with, and being able to manage and develop those relationships and make sure that they are mutually beneficial, that everyone's getting what they want out of it. That is probably the most important skill. Similar to that, also communication through sort of online mediums like writing blogs, newsletters, writing copy for those, and also on social media. That's part of my job that I've leaned into quite a lot. But then again, I also do a lot of managing events and sort of managing multiple projects at the same time. So to actually answer your question, I guess the first one would be building relationships, communication, and then also sort of being able to manage different sort of programs and projects simultaneously, and switching between tasks, because there are so many groups that we work with, and it's not like we only work on one project at a time. And I'm really grateful for my team who support each other, who work very well together. So it's always different things going on, and it can be quite difficult to keep in on top of what everyone's doing, because there is so much. But I think it's a lot of transferable skills as well, that people from a whole bunch of different career paths will, use these skills in their job. So if they were considering pursuing a career or a job like mine, there's lots of transferable skills there.
So what sort of opportunities are there available for working for the STEM Ambassador Programme?
We actually have a couple of vacancies up now, actually. So there's vacancies within the finance team, the marketing team, possibly the communications team, and maybe something else. I would say that sort of my job, it encompasses quite a few of these different roles, but there are many other teams within the organisation who sort of focus on particular elements, such as evaluation, incredibly important, or communications, also incredibly important. And all of these things feed into running a successful STEM ambassador program. Again, if there's a certain area that people are interested in, there's certainly opportunities there, as long as it helps the final aims at the end of the day, which is enthusing young people and encouraging them to pursue STEM in their careers and their school subjects.
So what's the most challenging part of your job?
The most challenging part, I would say, is because we do work with so many groups, so many organisations, so many different types as well. Everyone has a different reason for getting involved with the STEM Ambassador Programme. So let's take STEM Ambassador volunteers as an example. They could have a whole host of different reasons for volunteering, not just because they care about young people and want to give back, but a whole bunch of other reasons, including that a lot of STEM ambassadors really benefit from being able to develop their own skills, whether that's communication, reaching out into the local community, that actually supports them in their career, particularly for their goals with chartership. That's something that is becoming more and more visible and important. And that's just one example of sort of how one of our groups that we engage with could sort of have different focuses when it comes to engaging with the STEM Ambassador Programme. And that would be the same for whether you're working with schools and teachers, career leads. All of these groups, all of these schools will have different needs. I guess the most challenging part is really listening to what they are looking for so that we can best support them. And it's something which is challenging, not because it's hard or because I don't enjoy it. And I think I enjoy it a lot, actually, because it's so important. There's no point delivering something if it doesn't meet the needs of the community. But it's challenging because it can vary so much. And there's so many different people to sort of consult. And there's no sort of one size fits all. But I really enjoy being able to personalise and make sort of bespoke events for different groups to help, again, so it actually fits what they're looking for. The young people will benefit even more.
So what's the most rewarding part for you of delivering the programme?
Oh, I was thinking about this, actually, and I think some people might assume, okay, so the programme is to benefit young people. That must be the most rewarding part. But on the contrary, for me, I actually find the most rewarding part is supporting other STEM ambassadors. And I say other STEM ambassadors because I'm still a STEM ambassador volunteer myself. And I think that's because I know what it's like to be in their shoes as an individual volunteer, as a student volunteer, and also as a volunteer who's trying to encourage other people within my organisation at my workplace to get involved, whether that's creating resources or delivering STEM ambassador activities themselves. So being able to sort of take my own experiences, listen to their needs, and help to bring their ideas to life is definitely the most rewarding part that for me personally. And that's because a lot of our volunteers will say, oh, I would love to do something, you know, that brings this real life project that I'm working on to the classroom and make it relatable for, you know, primary school children, for example. And they have this idea, but really being able to work with them to bring that to life and actually bring that to young people in the end is, absolutely rewarding, super fulfilling. And it's amazing because all of these volunteers, they have such great ideas. They have so much expertise that they're looking to share, but sometimes it's just that final piece of support that they need to actually make it happen. And I'm really, really happy to provide that. Yeah, I love it.
I can tell. So I know you're really passionate as well about getting more female representation into STEM and STEM fields. Do you think the programme is really helping to promote that as well?
Yeah, absolutely. So our STEM ambassador volunteers are, I think, are pretty much 50-50. The number changes a little bit every year, but in terms of gender, we're roughly 50-50 male and female. And that is not representative of the industry, but it is representative of where we want the industries to go. Which is really fantastic. And I think it's really important for young students to see diverse role models, whether they're from the same group or not. So it's important for young girls to see, you know, female role models in different careers at all different stages of their career as well, you know, succeeding and thriving and providing a bit of inspiration for them. But it's also just as important for example, for young boys to see female role models. And I'm sure that, I hope that they would also aspire to be like the female role models that they get to engage with. And I think that's important because we talk a lot about, you know, diversity in STEM or gender equality in STEM, but the fact of the matter is young girls are already interested in STEM, and there are already a huge host of women working in a variety of different STEM fields, including right at the top of their sort of career and technical ability. They already are in the industry, but then perhaps not as visible, and that includes to parents and teachers. So it's not just young people that we need to reach with these role models, but it's also with all the influencers who would be speaking to young people and influencing where they might go in their education and their eventual career. And I think that's so crucial. I'm really grateful for the STEM ambassadors of all genders who work with young people, because just how it's important for example, young boys to see female role models. It's also important for all students to see, for example, male role models who are inclusive and welcoming of female students and female colleagues. And I think that is something which we shouldn't dismiss, because I don't want any male or middle class or white STEM ambassadors to think that actually they're not what we're looking for, because it's absolutely crucial to show the realities of it, and actually showing that they are just as encouraging and inclusive of people who are not from the same demographic as them. Is 100% crucial. And that's sort of what makes up an inclusive workplace. It's not just about, you know, underrepresented groups, you know, coming together, but actually everyone coming together and working together, collaborating on a project that meets ultimately the client needs and will help to create a better world for everyone to live in. And that's sort of the big message behind a lot of STEM subjects, and particularly engineering.
So for any STEM professionals, engineering professionals watching this who might feel inspired to become a STEM ambassador, how do you go about working as a STEM ambassador?
Yeah, definitely. Well, firstly, come on board. If you haven't already, please sign up as a STEM ambassador. Especially if you have, you know, already had an interest in doing events like this in the past. Maybe you already engage with young people, but you haven't registered as a STEM ambassador with STEM Learning. We are really proud to collaborate with the different engineering institutions, with different employers, and there's plenty that you can do to support. It's not only about delivering a fun hands-on demo in the classroom. There's so many different things that we need STEM ambassadors to support, and that also includes working with teachers and parents. As I said, they are key influencers. And so if you really dislike working with young people for whatever reason, there is a place for you too. And that was actually sort of probably my case when I first started as a STEM ambassador. But then I came to realize that I loved working with children of all ages as well. So I would recommend is that people sort of check out the website stem.org.uk, and you can register there as a STEM ambassador volunteer.
Yeah.
From there, you'll be invited to complete an online induction, which gives a bit of background about the program, and also a DBS check. So that's a disclosure borrowing service, which is a guarantee that STEM Learning has for all the schools and youth groups that we work with, that all of our STEM ambassadors have a DBS check, just to show that you are fine to work with young people. That's all just part of the registration. And then once you've completed that, you'll be ready to volunteer. So we have regional hubs across the country. I'm part of the team in the London hub. Not to say that I don't work with volunteers in other regions as well. And I'm always really keen to hear from volunteers about their ideas. Again, my favourite part about my job is helping to bring those ideas to life. And I love hearing about the creative projects that people can bring, or any way to increase engagement for young people, and help them to get a better idea about the workplace. Like with me, I didn't have any idea of what civil engineering was until I was maybe 16. And even later than that, it was still possible to learn about new careers as I am doing as well. A lot of teenagers have a misconception that you need to have your career planned out.
That's right,
from the time that you're 16 or ready to leave school. You're supposed to know exactly what you want to do when you are, quotes, a grown up. I think you and me, Jamie, we know from our peer group, we know from our own experience that new opportunities, will arise. And
that's right.
A lot of adults also don't really know what they want to do in their career. And I think it's so important for young people to really have an idea of all the different opportunities that they could have, so that they can make their educated decisions, so they can enter the working world with an open mind and really thrive in whatever industries they end up working in. And it's all about raising awareness about what's out there and what's an opportunity for them.
So you engage with young people obviously a lot in your work. What advice would you give a young person who was looking to start a career in a STEM field?
I think something that I really benefited from, and that I would advise to not just young people, but also people in any stage of their career, is to reach out to people who are in a field that you might be interested in. And with online networks now on LinkedIn, it's easier than ever. Maybe speak to your teachers, the career leads in your school or your careers department at your university, if that's relevant, because they will have connections with potential employers and industries. And I certainly think that what you learn in school or what you learn even in university is not always going to be exactly what it's like in the actual job. And there's huge amounts that we can learn just by asking them, what do you do in your day-to-day? And some people might think that their day-to-day is too boring to talk about, but actually we all have things to learn from each other. And it's absolutely not the case. Like when one person could be in engineering and spend a lot of their time out and about, walking around or doing surveys. Another person could be, sat at their desk for most of every day, looking at online drawings online. Other people could spend a huge amount of their time in meetings. But all of these come under the same job title of an engineer. But actually, we need to start these conversations, and being able to hear from people who are in those jobs and have taken that path themselves. We can learn huge amounts from that. And I'm including myself in that group because I'm still learning. And then on the other side, we also need people to be mentors who are going to be responsive and be able to share information with young people who are interested in learning. So fantastic.
So do you have any tips that you could share with young people about having a successful career, or is it just take each day as it comes?
I would definitely say that while it's good to have a long-term plan for where you want your career to go, there will also be unexpected incidences, and developing that resilience and adaptability for me was really, really key. I would have never expected. I didn't even know that the job titles that I had now, I never knew that it existed. I'm really grateful that I was receptive to it. So while I was, also pursuing my engineering career, I was also open-minded to consider different opportunities, which has worked out really great for me. And I think that will continue in the future as well. We're in a time when so many people have, unexpected career paths. It's pretty rare to meet someone who's been at the same company for, even more than 10 years. And I think that's just the nature of the industry now, which we should see as a good thing, because there are opportunities for change and for, gaining experience in lots of different areas. So yeah, I would say sort of be open-minded, be resilient, be adaptable. You never know what opportunities might present themselves to you.
That's fantastic advice as well. Natalie, thank you so much. That's it. Well done.
Oh, thank you so much, Jerry. I've really enjoyed this conversation, and I am really glad and really honoured that you asked me to be a guest, especially because I'm a big fan of your podcast. So keep up the amazing work. It's really great for the engineering sector to have, voices like this and a platform like this as well.
Thank you so much. That's very kind.
And leave a review for the podcast.
Please.
Go on to Apple Podcasts right now. Leave a review.
That'll be brilliant. Thank you, Natalie, so much.